Reservation Dogs, Season 2, Episode 9, Offerings. Can you guys believe one more episode until the end of the season? It's crazy, this season has gone by so quickly. I think I like Season 2 personally more than Season 1. What do you think? Let me know down in the comments below. I mean, I like the individual journeys into the characters and these character studies, basically. I'm getting a lot from these episodes, and this was another tour de force episode. If you have gone on this ride with me and enjoy these Reservation Dogs reviews, please make sure you're subscribed to my channel. Give this video a like if you will. But let's just jump right in. The episode opens with some gorgeous, gorgeous folk music. I think Taika Waititi is kind of got an affinity for good folk music. I watched a film of his last year or earlier this year, The Hunt for the Wilder People. Someone on this channel recommended it to me. There's a song by Leonard Cohen called The Partisan in that movie. And it's a beautiful, beautiful folk song. It's become one of my favorite songs. And so if you enjoyed that folk music at the beginning of the episode, listen to The Partisan by Leonard Cohen. I think you'll enjoy that. But the episode opens, basically opens in high school. They're getting letters back, their freshman letters to themselves, about their dreams, about their goals, about what are the things that they want to achieve over the 4 years of high school. I think Bear wanted to be a rapper like his father, which was kind of insightful. And Willie Jacks wanted to be a wizard. But at the end of the class, the teacher hands Willie Jacks Daniel's letter that he had written to himself, thinking that she, might find some closure or some solace in reading his words. And I think spiritually she was really meant to get the letter because she would do the most good with it. And, and I think she did and will continue to. So Willie Jacks decides that once she gets this letter, she decides there's some unfinished business. There's some conversations that she still wants to have. And she decides to go visit Hopetie in prison, Daniel's mom. She hasn't seen her for years and years and years. We flash over to Hopetie, and she's kind of in a nightmare, living the same day over and over and over again. Her spirit guide pops in and says, Hopetie, today is the big day. It's a big day for you. And I kept thinking, is she going to be released? Are we going to get some news on that front? And looking back on the episode, I think the spirit guide was saying, this is an important day on your spiritual journey. I think that up until this point, your story has been plagued by failures, by regret, by not being able to save Daniel, not being able to do more. But today is an important day because here's an opportunity, a first opportunity for a little bit of retribution, to simply help someone and to re-energize yourself. And so she was so down and out that she didn't realize that she, kind of had an opportunity to help herself. And the spirit guide, so funny. I love these different spirit guides. Was there to kind of cue her up and to help her, get ready. I kind of think of the white guy in the lobby. He was also kind of a guru or a spirit guide, and he kind of helped Willie Jacks prepare her mind and get herself into the frame of mind to get something good out of this interaction. I think he said something to the effect that, they might not always appreciate it, but it's one of the most important things you can do for an incarcerated person. And so it was so important for her to go in with that attitude, in order to have some maturity. So they were kind of both coming to it with some stakes. And that was so spiritually important. One of the other things the guy says is, never forget that the people who built this place, they're fundamentally, they've lost their way. They're basically broken people that forced separation from your home is not a natural way to be. And I think it's such an important conversation to have. It's interesting that it was his perspective, maybe it's important for someone, to use his voice to say something like that. Not to get too deep into it, but there's a larger conversation happening right now with the death of the Queen and undoing a lot of, colonization and a lot of the monarchy across the world. And so the dehumanizing of prisoners, that lack of physical touch, kind of breaking people down to their animalistic, core. I think that is a remnant of colonization. I think the white guy says, the Indians didn't have any prisons. We built this kind of system. But they go into it. It was interesting. So they were able to kind of walk into the conversation, ready to embrace whatever the other person had for one another. But Daniel's mom, Hoti's broken. Willie Jack wants to share Daniel's letter with her, and she says, it's not for me. I can't really accept that. When I see you, I see Daniel. I can't really get these terrible thoughts out of my head. That's why you guys aren't even on my visitation list. She's basically living in turmoil. Willie Jack talks really touchingly about how when Daniel and she were little, she looked up to Hoti as a hero. How she always made things better. How she always knew the solution to the problem. That she was a matriarch. And I think in that moment, Hoti kind of got into like a sense memory where she kind of went back into that healing and that teaching mode. And if you think about it, she even taught Willie Jack how to communicate with her and how to overcome the objections that she was presenting. She totally went into protection mode. She says, go get me an offering, go get the food, and let's sit down and let's talk. And basically said, hey, what I've showed you here today and how you've broken the ice with me, go break bread with your friends. Go break bread with, Laura and Cheese and Bear and bring, your topics to the table in that way. And I think it was kind of an injection of hope back into Hoti to be able to teach again and to be able to be a spirit guide in that way again. And she prays for her. And she reminds Willie Jack that everything that you do, your ancestors are watching you everywhere that you go, especially when you feel alone. There are generations of ancestors behind you, legion behind you, ready to back you up, ready to guide you. And so while she was injecting that hope and that spirituality into Willie Jack, she was talking to herself as well. She woke up that morning dejected, broken, just kind of ready to, in a numbing way, not face the world. But she had to remind herself as she's sitting there talking to Willie Jack, the scores of ancestors are standing there behind Willie Jack, and she's, she can see them, and we can see them as the audience. And Willie Jack is being moved and motivated and spiritually led by, the power of those that have come before her. And I think Hoti was spiritually led by just remembering the power that each of us have. And it's the more alone that we feel, the more slighted that we are, I think the more grace the universe tends to provide to us. The more spirit guides, the more, guardian angels on your shoulders, the universe tends to put in our corners. But I thought it was a fabulous episode. They Willie Jack arranges dinner for the kids. They all bring some form of potatoes to the potluck. And they pull out Daniel's letter at dinner. And I just kept saying, or I thought to myself, this is the perfect time. This was the appropriate time, to talk about Daniel and to pull out that letter. And they didn't read it out loud. I don't know what they said, but I feel like it's California, here we come again. We've been on this emotional roller coaster with this will they, won't they since season 1. But here we are again, I think, for Daniel's legacy and for his memory. I think was one of his dreams, was for them as a crew to get to LA and to, have an experience, maybe smoke some pot, whatever it is, but to get to California. And so I'm jazzed again about whatever it takes for them to, become a team again. I think they're important leaders on the reservation. They're going to be elders, in a few years and be able to guide other people. And so, just wonderful, the music throughout this episode. It ended like on this 80s new wave, kind of music, and ended on Time After Time. And even though it was a black end credits screen, I just sat there and listened to Time After Time, just about until the end. I thought the music elevated the episode. It framed it so beautifully. I thought the themes of spirituality and reconciliation of spirit, I thought were incredible. Talking about themes of forced separation and the the subtle effects of colonization, dehumanizing one another. And, that's enough touching, don't touch the person next to you. I think all of these things are interconnected, and it's high time we start having a larger conversation about, more humanistic approaches to treating one another, and other ways to live. This system of capitalism of, may the strongest survive, it's caused our system to get as far as it has, but it's left a lot of people behind, and we're realizing that as time goes on. And so I continue to just love this show for all of the different kinds of conversations it's having on so many different levels. What did you connect to? When I saw those generations of people standing there, when she told that story about people continuing to care for one another, even during the forced marches, there were those in Legion that were there to caretake for one another, even when they were in new places and barren lands and reservations for the first time. There were those whose job it was to take care of other people. I thought that was just so moving. But anyway, you guys know I could go on and on for days. What another amazing episode. If you haven't already, give this video a like, a comment about this week's episode, and consider subscribing to Justin Talks Film for more movie and TV related content. And until next week, episode 10, have a wonderful week.